Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This week we have a couple of great positive segments for you. But before we get to that, if you like what we're all about, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss anything new. Sign up for our weekly newsletter where we share all sorts of useful insights, recipes, special invites, and much more at link in bio. We also invite you to join our monthly peer mentoring group that goes down every third Thursday of every month, also at link in bio. Thanks to your support, we've raised over $15,000 for our first annual Drive for Autism golf tournament, with proceeds going to supplying graduating students from special needs schools with assistive technology as they transition into DDA settings. School systems often supply these students with assistive technology so they have a decent schooling and learning experience while they're within the school system. But this equipment nearly always stays with the school after the individual transitions at the age of 21, and so we aim to bridge that gap to maintain that quality of life with these individuals. Special thanks to JeduCare, Renix Caregivers, Frontline Mobile Tech, Creed Medical Group, and Renix ID Solutions for their sponsorship. If you're a DMV resident, we invite you to join in support by registering a foursome, becoming a sponsor, or joining in for our lunch celebration if you want to support us but aren't about that golf life. This is all taking place at Lake Presidential Golf Course in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, Monday, October 23rd, and you can do any of these at the link in description. So this week's first story is anecdotal and personal in nature. I recently took a trip to Hershey, Pennsylvania to visit the now 117-year-old Hershey Park with the family. Aside from the massive variety in food and candy options available at their Chocolate World attraction, one important detail really stood out to me during my visit there, and even more as we trekked through the amusement park itself, and that's just how many neurodivergent individuals the park employs. The first staffer I came across was manning a handout station giving free chocolate to riders as they were exiting the main Chocolate World factory ride. And I immediately thought of how wonderful it was to see the park include members of this community like this individual with Down syndrome. How great it was to demonstrate to the masses how capable many within this community really are, despite all the negative social stigma that imply otherwise. I had no idea though to what large degree the park actually practices this sort of inclusivity. Upon making my way through the park and all its attractions and rides, I saw what seemed like a neurodivergent individual at every third or fourth post, which was awesome. Some manning games, others rides, registers, and restaurants. Some were pretty expressive about their neurodiversity when asked about it, while others volunteered such details under circumstances I'm sure they felt called for. Other members weren't so expressive or even verbal, and I'm sure at least a part of that has to do with fatigue toward what I'm sure is a lot of public commentary on their physical and mental capacities, be it good or bad, because I personally witnessed quite a bit of it, though mostly good. The one thing that really stood out to me the most though was their strict, unwavering adherence to management and safety, especially in rides. These folks were not messing around with doing things by their book, even if it meant upsetting patrons. I got into one of those spinning rides where you can control the hydraulic arm your vessel is attached to and lift or lower your vessel on demand as the ride spins. After getting into the vessel and the attendant inspects your seatbelts to be in place, there's a window of time where you can actually start lifting up your vessel as the attendant primes the ride for spin up. Now the attendant communicated to us pretty clearly not to do this until the ride starts spinning up for obvious safety reasons. So the ride takes its course, which is an absolute blast, and afterward my family and I stood by the exit to strategize our next stop, considering a lot of the rides were closed, so you had to walk a longer distance to get to the next open ride and spend a lot more time in its lines. As we were deliberating, the next set of riders got on the ride we were just on. Now this had to have been one big group because they were mostly all doing exactly what the attendant previously asked us not to do, which was prematurely lifting and dropping their units to varying degrees despite the attendant's warnings. The attendant, however, was not having any of this and ended up kicking all of them off the ride. And I'm sure you can imagine the kind of response he got after disgruntled riders begrudgingly exited the ride. But he was straight-faced and firm on safety first with no exceptions. I did initially have mixed feelings about this, but concluded in hindsight that he made the right call in sticking with his training. Strict training that the park invested into so they can include individuals like this. Now some might say, well, they only do it for cheap labor and would never be doing this if unemployment wasn't so low and low-wage workers weren't so hard to come by, which is definitely a fair assessment. But the bigger picture is how this demonstrates to everyone everywhere that many within this community are just as capable and deserving of opportunity and fairness within the workforce as anyone else. And as the saying goes, disabilities in many cases are just different abilities. Shout out to Hershey Park for advancing inclusion. Vance Walker, a high schooler from Texas, born with cerebral palsy, beats stage 4 of this year's American Ninja Warrior competition. Now for context, this competition is no joke. This competition tests the absolute limits of human coordination, strength, speed, and most pointedly, human stamina. First appearing in 1997 in Japan, Ninja Warrior picked up major popularity in the US back in 2007, and ultimately got its own American spin-off in 2009. I used to binge watch this show back in high school, and it had a little bit of everything: humor, heart, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. Since its launch in the US, there's only been 5 of about 3,500 competitors who've achieved total victory, with just 3 of them winning the competition's hefty cash prize. Now, Vance's win is especially inspiring for his backstory. Take a look.
18-year-old Vance Walker. This kid has a remarkable story. He was born with cerebral palsy. Up until first grade, he had to wear braces to walk, was told he'd never be able to do sports, and even now, he does regular physical therapy to manage the pain. That's why his success on American Ninja Warrior has been so impressive. Oh boy, now he's using all arms. He's right there. Vance Walker has done it! Vance Walker wins $1 million. He's the new American Ninja Warrior champion.
Vance has what many call high-functioning cerebral palsy, meaning this condition does have a spectrum in severity in how much it limits an individual's core functions, much like that seen in ASD and others. There are many on the more severe end of the spectrum that can't do a fraction of what Vance can do, and require assistance from family, caretakers, and technology for their day-to-day basic living. With that said though, Vance's case demonstrates how a condition doesn't necessarily have to define you and what the rest of your life is set in stone to be. With the right drive and support from family and community, many things can realistically be accomplished and overcome. And not just the physical sense, but the social and academic as well. I mean, look at this kid. He's on cloud 9, having achieved what thousands of others couldn't. Living his best life, having been born with a condition that is otherwise known for being the cause for the opposite. This is also why scientists study and research solutions to conditions like these, so someday every neurodivergent individual is recognized by all of society for their different abilities and not their disabilities. And that's gonna do it for this week's episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss anything new. Please support the channel however you can at autismallyGroup.org/donate. And as always, thanks for watching.
I'll be there when you need me. You can count on it.